Okay, well, tonight I'm speaking to you with a very heavy heart. I'm seriously thinking of running for president as a Republican. I'm a registered Democrat, but running as a Republican in the Republican Party has so lost its way, so confused in what it's about. Where women vote Democrat because they see the fact that we have no leader. And that's why, a leader, that is to say, who actually doesn't hand off his government to all the governors. This is what Mr. Trump is doing now. He's telling you that's their fault. It's their business. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Harry Truman used to say, the buck stops here. But I say the Republican Party lost its way in 1980. From 1935 to 1980, that's a matter of 45 years, modern America was built. The destruction, economic destruction of the Depression, the Great Depression, where everybody was out of work, like is what's happening now. Very similar. We're in that situation. In those days, Mr. FDR, in 100 days after he was elected, put everybody to work building bridges and roads and everything. Everybody went to work on the government paycheck. Socialism in the raw. Didn't receive paychecks for sitting home, avoiding a virus. Didn't have to worry about a job. It was there for them. In Europe right now, they're giving corporations paychecks for keeping their employees on payroll. So when they start up again, that corporation stays in business with all of its employees. So why do I think of running for president as a Republican? A Lincoln Republican, a thinking Republican. What did Lincoln do? The Transcontinental Railroad. What was that about? The telegraph. They came in together and they went across the country from east to west. People built it. In 6 years, he built the interstate transcontinental, across the continent of the United States, railroad. And when he died from assassination, they put his casket on a train and stopped at town after town after town as people wept as he went back to Washington to be buried. And that is what a president does. They lead by example. And that was why he was great. And he won the Civil War. What was the Civil War about? It was about selling slaves, marketing slaves. Why was that not about cotton? Not about that. It was the biggest market the United States had. Until 1860, the market of selling slaves, there were auction houses in every little burg all through the South where they sold them in auction box, men, women, and children. The quality of the man, let's see, who's that great athlete that plays in the NBA? He looks like he's ready to tear down, like a bulldog running through the players. Well, what's his name? He's a great player.
LeBron James?
LeBron James. Thank you, Alex. LeBron James, he would have pulled down about $8,000 in those days. That doesn't sound like much today, but $8,000 would buy you 5 farms, major farms in the South. $8,000 was huge. Usually the high price was $2,500, but some slaves drew even more. So when the threat of abolition was coming, the cloud of that, and Civil War was coming, the Constitution, or the Southern Congress passed a law called the Fugitive Slave Law. And what was that? Slaves were escaping to the north or to the south. In some cases, they escaped to Mexico. If they got out of the United States, they were free. They go to Canada or Mexico. And at Cincinnati, Ohio, was where a gal by the name of Harriet Beecher Stowe happens to be a direct relative of mine. She was a great, great, great aunt of mine. And she wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. Essentially, Uncle Tom's Cabin was about the slaves running across, initially, the Cincinnati River in freezing time. You saw people running across, dogs chasing them from Kentucky to Ohio, falling in the frozen river, drowning, mothers and babies, and dogs chasing them and grabbing them in the water and drowning them some more. So she witnessed that terror personally from her house in Cincinnati on the bluff. I've been to her house and saw they had a low flat land, the river would freeze and the people could get across the river and keep going north. And that's what and then the Underground Railroad was developed to assist the slaves. So we have come a long way. Lincoln abolished slavery. The Civil War was reinforcing it. The South said it was just states' rights. And states' rights to conduct slavery, yeah, not states' rights for anything else. And so when they made the bargain for the Electoral College, that was the 3/5 of a person thing. 3/5 of a person is 60%. So the South said we only have 60% of a person in our Constitution if they're a slave. 40% is what we don't have. So if you're going to make the elections fairful in the future, you have to give us 40% more electors because of the lack of population the slaves represent. So that is why the South, that had held slaves, got more electors than their population deserved. And so the last election and 4 others were decided where the popular vote lost and the electoral vote won. So now we're facing an election in a party that used to be the party of Lincoln, and it then became the party of Ronald Reagan. Reagan came in after the modern America was built in 1980. He beat Jimmy Carter, and the tax rates on the upper rich was, when Carter left office, was 70%. 70% marginal upper rates. Didn't start until you made $200,000, and this escalated up from there, marginally up and up and up. But Warren Buffett said, tax me as you choose. It's my country too. I care about my country more than money. And so that was his point of view. Reagan had the view of just cutting taxes. In the space of 1980 to 1987, we had a near crash, and the stock market fell, and it fell badly. And we suddenly went from no debt in 1980 when he took over to $3 trillion in debt in space of 8 years. And then George Bush Sr. came in, he added another 4 to it. Clinton came in and lowered it Bush Sr. raised it to 5, Bill Clinton lowered it to 4, and Bush, gee whiz, Jr. Raised it to, when he left office, left us with another recession and $12 trillion in debt. And the recession added about $6 trillion to that at 18. So when Obama came in, when he left office with cleaning up the job mess and the foreclosures and all of that. But he left $18 trillion on the table of debt. Right now we're at $25 trillion in the space of 3 years. We've gone up $7 trillion under Mr. Trump. And with his coronavirus monies and so forth, the debt's going to be through the roof, even beyond this. So we have a problem in this country, and as I run for president, I'm going to talk about how we get out of that. We're going to have to go back to that marginal tax rate. We're going to have to repeal the tax cut of Mr. Donald Trump. And we're going to have to do the things that are embarrassing but have to be done. We're going to do the high-speed rail. The biggest polluter in this country is what? Cars, 5%. Airplanes, jet airplanes, 5%. Those are the 2 big polluters. It's easy to go to high-speed rail with no pollution or virtually none and provide 500-mile trips in about an hour and a half, 2 hours to Atlanta from Tampa. That's all. Would you rather go by a nice new train you can walk around and get up, not be cramped in space, worried about somebody coughing on you, spreading the virus in a plane, in a little tube, just to get there a half hour sooner? When you get on a train, you wander around, go to the club car, have a drink, and you civilize yourself. And you're not tired. You can sleep on the train if the trip is longer. So 500-mile trips are the easiest ones to change and get rid of the airlines. That's one of Joe Biden's efforts. That would be my effort. I would do the same thing. And since we're paying for healthcare right now, and they just announced this today, everybody who's got the virus gets free healthcare. Here's Republicans telling people you're going to have free healthcare. Well, I'm a Lincoln Republican, so yeah, and we're going to keep it right on through. And we're going to pay it on taxing the right people, and we're going to take away profit from healthcare. You can't have a corporation that's just for profit. And healthcare is a utility. Everybody has to have it, like they have to have water, like they have to have air. You don't know when you're going to need it. A car wreck puts you in the hospital, ruins your health. Now, I'm an example of somebody that has benefited from Medicare. In 2013, I was flown bay flighted to Gainesville, Florida from aortic aneurysm. Everybody said I would not survive, including my heart specialist. $1.5 million later, 10 weeks later, was my Medicare bill. I paid nothing. I have a supplement, it's an ARP supplement, so I paid not a dime. And if I hadn't had that, it would have wiped me out financially. And that's what is the biggest bankruptcy there is. So healthcare, building the high-speed rail are the two big things that I would bring about as president, and hope that real Republicans who care about the country more than money would come forward, and so that more people evenly can make money. Right now, we're hoping that this show will be successful, so Alex can be the giant guru of the media and Facebook in particular. I hope that people who get more sense out of being cared for by healthcare and not worrying about it can go in and get their care long after the virus is cured. The question is, will it be cured? And the risk is great. Now they find out that opening the beaches is a good idea, especially in the summertime. Sun wipes out the virus. It doesn't wipe it out on the underside of the swings, but it does wipe it on the surface of the swings in the parks and things like that. So we need to get the people huddled in their homes, out in the fresh air of sunlight, in Florida especially, year-round sunlight. So this is what we can do. So as president, those are the first two things that I would do. And I'd keep people working that weren't working. That'd be the third thing. And I'd start building the rail system, the tracks, all of that. And I would help California finish their high-speed rail. And I'd want to get that example up before the people to see how that works in this country. I've traveled in high-speed rail. I've been in France and traveled on their trains, which are now 25 years old. They run at 185 miles an hour from Paris down to Nice. A trip of 600 miles takes about 3-4 hours. And that's old trains by today's standards. So we can do this. And America can modernize like Europe is. We are not a modern country if we don't have high-speed rail. Planes are not an answer. They're a shortcut to a dead end. And you can't keep doing it this way. So I flew for 10 years, lived out of a suitcase back in the 70s after Mount St. Helens, and I saw the effect of Mount St. Helens. That can happen again. That shut down a lot of flights. The economics can shut things down. So if the party of Lincoln is going to come back alive, it'll probably come back through me. And in the meantime, I'll stay probably functionally as that kind of Lincoln Republicans that other Republicans say, well, he's really a liberal. Well, so was Lincoln, and so was Christ. I thank you for this opportunity, and vote for me.